And on the phone with us this morning, all the way from Dallas, is Dave Batt. And we're going to tell you all about Dave and talk with him in a moment. Our conversation presented by Marcus & Mack, voted best law firm and best personal injury lawyer 3 years in a row on the Best of Indiana County contest. Visit them online at marcusandmack.com. Dave is with PredictView, which is a cutting-edge health technology company dedicated to improving mental wellness with its AI-based solutions. We're talking with Dave today about this new study that comes out that says kids are they're using their phones at night after we send them to bed. When I was a kid, Dave, it was the transistor radio listening to Bob Prince called the Pirate Games underneath the blanket at night. It's a little bit different these days, isn't it?
It sure is. And, you know, what's being delivered, the content being delivered is very different than a fun serial or a monologue. It's damaging content that's hurting kids.
Yeah, well, let's talk about that a little bit. Kids and their phones at night, obviously that's just not a good idea. But this study shows that kids, not only, high school kids that are getting set to move on to whatever the next stage of their lives are, but even elementary school age kids, 6-year-olds and 7 and 8-year-olds, they're using their phones after mom and dad send them to bed at night. And so that just can't be a good formula.
No, it's not. And, Todd, it started with the first range of kids they looked at, which makes a little sense and goes to your point. Between the ages of 14 and 19 years old, they're using their phone at night after bedtime. And that could be everything from, getting online homework done to, making appointments, whatever the case is. I'm sure it's not all roses, but the thing that was disturbing was that kids between the ages of 7 and 11 years old, 33% of them are using their phones at night after bedtime at least twice a week.
That's kind of scary because they're also noticing some trends about it, not just lost sleep, which is bad enough, but they're noticing some psychological complications that are coming up with this because of it. Cyberbullying is one of them, and it's easy to say, just turn the phone off at night. It's not that easy to make that actually happen.
Well, bullying and cyberbullying, it's an unfortunate part of our society, but it happens often. What was interesting in this study is it showed that kids are more emotionally susceptible to the effects of cyberbullying at night than compared to the daylight hours when they've got a support group around them. They've got friends and family. They're alone in their bedroom. They're recharged in the morning. They're not deprived of sleep like they are at night. So that really was one of the most disturbing pieces of the research, is the effect of cyberbullying at night on kids is accentuated.
And a big part of that is the fact that we really don't know who we're talking to, even if they would represent themselves as being a schoolmate or somebody who used to go to that school or somebody from the neighborhood. They could be some dude who's 40 years old and living somewhere and doing bad things to kids. And obviously, we can't have that happening.
Well, and we dramatize that some ways and personify that, but even more so on a much larger scale. Some of the social media platforms almost act in that manner. I'll give you an example with TikTok. It is not based on who you like and friends you follow exclusively. That algorithm is purpose-built to send content based on the content that you view. So it was interesting to see that girls between the ages of 13 and 16, they started looking for health and fitness, and within 2.5 minutes, it was sending them information about how to have the right body image by purging their meals. Mm. It's just ridiculous. And if you think of it, for those that aren't familiar with what algorithms are, just think of a magnet. If you're a magnet that is based on one thing like fashion, that magnet is going to send you things about fashion and anything content that's being followed, that's popularized around content, around fashion, even if that means doing something like purging your food.
So what are some of the consequences that we're noticing beyond the fact that the obvious things like they're telling you to to do things, or they're guiding you in directions where you might do something that would obviously be harmful to you. But there have to be other consequences, and I'm thinking particularly about mental health and the, the fact that you get a poor image of yourself, and the fact that others are able to convince you of things that just aren't true about yourself.
Right. So there was a lot of legislation that's been introduced recently, and to support that legislation, to your very point, Todd, there was research that showed that kids that are between the ages of 11 and 16 that are on social media platforms more than 2 hours a week have a twice likely chance of suffering from depression and anxiety, clinical depression. And this is after years and years of surveys of watching kids use and the effect on them. And part of the reason why is young minds are still developing. Their body not only is growing, but their brain is growing. And how their brain processes information is still very, very influential. So this is why that knockdown effect happens with just 2 hours of use a week.
It's pretty amazing that it is a problem. I remember, as I said, when I was listening to my radio underneath the covers at night and listening to the Pirates play baseball, and it's much more harmful in this way. So what is the answer? Is it as simple as parents taking away the phone at night?
Well, there's a heck of a place to start, just at home. And at home, the phone needs to be on the countertop charging, not in your bedroom in use. So that's an important thing to look at. Beyond the home, there are things that some of the technology companies are doing. Meta, who owns Facebook and Instagram, a couple weeks ago imposed new rules saying that kids under the age of 18 have restricted accounts. And that'll help, but it doesn't solve all of the problems. It really needs to at least start at home with the parents that are getting these devices for the kids and setting some good common sense ground rules.
Getting them to follow those rules then becomes the challenge. Tell me about PredictView, and is it a part of the solution?
Right now, we're a science company. We're not a technology company per se. We intend to create safer social media, but what we've been doing over the last almost 5 years now, is looking at how use of devices and social media can be correlated back to mental well-being, everything from good mental health to distressed mental health. And we've worked with a number of universities and their research labs to make sure that when we recognize a post that's doing this, that actually correlates back from a medical standpoint to that distressed behavior or activity. And we believe that foundation is important because when you've got that foundation, then eventually you can release technology and products that can create safer social media.
I would guess that you've got some pretty high-minded folks who are able to help you to develop this.
We do. I mean, our staff is made up of PhDs and technology leaders that they're minted in their field. But what I found interesting is the colleagues that are out there. There are companies, organizations, and technologies that are introducing peer-to-peer help networks, a company like White Flag. And their CEO has been just incredibly helpful and interesting in sharing their insights on what they see in market. And I see that all working together, not just with a couple of companies, but dozens and eventually hundreds of companies that will make that a special endeavor.
Has to be pretty encouraging to know that there are folks out there that recognize the problem and therefore get to work on it too.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so where do we learn about PredictView?
Go to our website at www.predictview.com.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Dave Batt, thanks so much for spending some time with us today. Have a wonderful day.
You too, Todd. Thank you.
Bye now. It is the voice of Indiana County. It's WCCS 101.1 FM, AM 1160.